communities to be for Black creative entrepreneurs.
Wow.
From New York to Los Angeles, it was a city to be, because remember, out of the city, I'm just giving an introduction. Out of the city, you had the Black-owned VJ Records, which eventually had a contract with the Beatles. Whoa!
Pause it, guys. VJ Records had Black-owned, had the first US label deal with the Beatles.
It was because
that shows how ghetto Beatles.
Capital didn't see the Beatles as being sort of viable in most respects, so they just sent them over to VJ, and then Mr. Postman and all that stuff became monster hits.
Affinity Extra, be extra.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily represent the views of Affinity Extra.
Yo, people, this is boy here, Roger Moore, and Affinity Extra, celebrating gospel music of Black origin. This is how I do it. We're looking at the history of Black music. Yes, this is on a station that celebrates gospel music, but at the same time, we have to look at the successful patterns that we have in Black music to get better, because I'm based in the UK and we continue to have this cycle of not going further. You hear me on every podcast saying the same thing, yeah? Anyone who says any different, come and challenge me, hit me up, set up a podcast right now, and you tell me, have we really fulfilled our potential in the UK from a gospel music perspective, and even from a Black music perspective?
Well, that's
So I'm triggering right there still, yeah? I'm triggering right there, because the reality show is that we have not fulfilled our potential. Ain't no one telling me any different. But either way, we're here to look at successful stories. We're not here just to moan. We're here to look into the past and show where people were. Now, the reality show is that the success of slavery was telling Black people that they weren't anything but slaves. But if you actually told them that they were kings, owners of land, great scholars, historians, great people, they'd be, hold a second, so why am I stuck here? That is why history is key. Yeah? Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know where you come from, you don't know who's been successful in your own skin color, you forever will accept the status quo for today. So don't be telling me that this ain't important. So this is important. Now, today, I'm gonna bring in obviously Kevin Tomlin, who's our resident. Probably the only one I know, but the resident, Black music historian that we have in the studio. He phones in, he more chases me more like still and says, Roger, I got more, and his time is even more dedicated now to delivering this information, and that just means great for me. That means a whole load more content going out there still, on the airwaves. And the reason why we're doing this is not only because Affinity Extra is really crazily cool, is because we know we need to put the facts and the information out there on the airwaves so people can actually not deny this read these information. So it's important that we jot this down, because the history needs we need to have these conversations out there. And hopefully Kevin will be coming up soon to Birmingham so we can have some internal studio meetings. I've got somebody who loves Black music as well, been around the world. I believe we'll have a great conversation with Kevin, about Black music. It's been great hearing, looking at the success of Black music. So today, guys, we're looking to a city. Now, the reason why I know this city is because of Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls, when I was a youth, was the top to wear. Everybody wanted Air Jordans. And the most successful export or import, or if any exported him, out of Chicago is Michael Jordan, as far as I'm concerned. But lo and behold, did you know? You know what I'm saying? And also, you hear when it comes to the Black community, it's kind of violent up there. I think they say it's one of the most violent cities in the US when it comes to people, to Black people, because of the poverty, which is really, really, really sad. And I heard it's very cold as well. in the winters, very, 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 very cold.
That's why it's called the Windy City. The Windy City, bro.
Listen, man,
it is cold when it cold. It cold.
Listen, man, me now I do them thing there so man. But
Yeah,
listen,
I'm just about under winter here. I've experienced a bit of winter in New York.
Bro.
When New York get cold, bro.
You get caught. That's what them northern cities are like, man. But either way, you know, our people moved. And when I say our people, our brothers our Afro-Americans moved from the south up to the north for sanctuary. And when they moved up there in the 40s and the 50s, with the second migration. The first migration was in the 1900s, and they migrated to a city called Chicago for hope and success and for being riches. Not everyone got rich, but the thing is, the entrepreneurship through the strife was amazing. And we come to be in the 1960s alongside Detroit, that we've touched on, and we're going to go back into Detroit because Detroit is almost, it sounds like the sidekick to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So you can't, but you have to. Kevin's rightfully said, listen, we have to go and deal with Chicago first, Roger, before we do the finishing maneuver with Motown and Detroit, yeah? Because I'm just ready to dive into Motown, because I am like everybody else, Motown. You mean, baby girl, baby, that's all, you know what I'm saying? All we think is Motown, you know, just the things that we hit us. But I'm looking here just to tease us into this, yeah? So I've put in Chicago Soul, guys, yeah? I'm seeing things called VJ. What else, VJ? I'm seeing things called Chess Records now. I've seen Chess Records. I'm seeing in Brunswick, Chi Sound, ABC Paramount. Okay, Mercury Records. I've heard of them still, yeah? And I'm seeing these things going. Obviously, Curtin was owned by the Curtis Mayfield. We did a total separate thing on Curtis Mayfield. And if you think, church people, if you feel like you've been left out of this and it's all about soul, the reality show is Curtis Mayfield. Majority of these musicians are coming straight out of church, fresh. The church. They're learning their raw talents, and then they're going straight into these studios and producing for the world. And some of them stayed in church and did great things from in Chicago. Now, do you remember brother James Cleveland? He was quite a famous dude. Where's James Cleveland from? Chicago. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and he inspired Kanye West. One of his key songs on his album, Jesus is King, is called God Is. God is from James Cleveland. God is a joy and the strength of my hand. He moves all the misery. And when Kanye West did his own spin to it, inspired when he was in church, seeing his choirs move.
Remember, Kanye West's father is a rev.
Come on now. So
he's a clergyman.
So he would have bumped it, yeah. He would have bumped it.
Why are you not surprised what Kanye West does?
And this is the facts, guys. You know what I'm saying? We have a part to play, brethren, in the church, but we need to realize what our talents have gone. And when they left our church, maybe we would appreciate our talents a lot more of the young people within our buildings and realize what we have lost because we never invested. As well, there's that angle to it, yeah. Maybe people just want to go, but a lot of times they want to be great in Christ in our places, and we don't recognize their greatness amongst us. But anyway, that's a whole other subject. But all these names up here, the effects of these guys, these Constellation Records, Kevin's gonna give us, and there's gonna be, you know, you got artists that I don't really heard of, which Kevin's gonna expand on. I'm sure Fontella Bass. I don't know Fontella Bass. You heard that one before, bro?
Fontana Bass.
Yeah.
Fontana Bass is the lady who became famous with "Rescue Me." Rescue me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's got "Rescue Me" here. Yeah.
That is what you call one of the greatest Chicago songs that became used in advertisement and movies, etc.
Okay, I need to check that one out. What about Bo Diddley? Who's Bo Diddley?
Bo Diddley.
What's that?
He's more of a what is called more of a rock and roll sort of, but yet at the same time soul. I wouldn't regard him as a soul artist as such, because we're concentrating on soul, but it's part of that fraternity or help the building blocks. But if you're talking about serious hit making runs, the Ether James and when we talk about, okay, let's put it this way: what makes Chicago different?
Go.
Chicago developed under Curtis Mayfield, developed a lot of social aware commentaries, songs. It talked about Black Pride, and out of it, remember, Curtis Mayfield wasn't politically motivated. It's just that the political activists use his message, and especially those who were interested in civil rights, the civil rights movement. Keep on pushing. And people get ready and so forth. All these songs were part of the what we call transformation. Like when we listen to Bob Marley with Exodus and Get Up and Stand Up for Your Right. Which those songs were inspired by what Curtis Mayfield was writing. Curtis Mayfield was writing a lot of social lyric.
So hold on, you dropped a classic there. Transforming songs that could be related to anybody who is an underdog. Right.
Struggling.
Yeah. Got you. Go.
And okay. Another thing that made Chicago exceptionally brilliant with its sound is the level of trained musicians that were classically trained and jazz trained. They had some of the, and I could give you some names. Matter of fact, one of the greatest educators, black educators, to come out of the inner city was the late James Max, who actually educated Tom Washington. He educated to become a competent string and horn arranger. And he educated Leo Graham, another one of his students, his brother, and so he trained several students who became outstanding producers, composers, and arrangers. And it took Chicago music to another level in terms of its. If you listen to the Chicago horn sections, they were choral and smooth and sweet. They flow like they just dance. They literally dance in your hearing. The dynamic. If you just listen to how they were used on Curtis Mayfield, when we talk about "Move On Up," they just flow. They weren't punching, but they were flowing. The horns were flowing like strings, because of the people who worked on it were classically trained, like Johnny Pate. Matter of fact, okay, these men, Johnny Pate, Richard Evans, right, and James Mack, all these people were academians as well.
Okay.
And all of them, especially Richard Evans and Johnny Matt, Johnny Payton rather, all of them taught composition.
Okay, yeah.
Either at Berkeley, at several of the top universities, which had a very dynamic and striving music department or music faculty, rather. Yes? So these men that I mentioned to you, they're the ones that the hip-hop community sampled their work.
Yes, yeah, big time. Yeah.
Because they were masterpiece. They were so brilliantly done, you could draw from it. That's why Kanye West always goes back to Chicago, because that's where he's from, and that's where many there's masterpieces were recorded. Remember, some of the top sound engineers in the country, like Bruce Swedien, who worked on Off the Wall and Thriller, started his craft at greater level in Chicago, bruv. So we can talk about a lot. Okay, Bruce Swedien. Listen, okay, let me give you an idea. Remember, we're talking about an introduction, yeah?
Yeah. Introduction, yeah. Tease them.
The introduction is a teaser. Bruce Swedien was responsible for a lot of hits when he was at Universal Studio, which the guy who created Universal Studio is called the father of stereo, James Putton, the father of stereo. He was such a master of studio acoustic and structure that all the major labels, not so much the major label, but the major studios in Philadelphia and other places adapt some of his acoustic information to their studio structure building because he was a master. They tap into him. Cosmo of the New Orleans sound always check him out to say, what should we do? How do we position the mics, and the recording desk? What do we do? So he was the go-to consultant, because he built a brother with Universal Studio. It was built from scratch. It was bespoke, bro. So they had unique sound.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So Bruce Swedien, let's give you an idea now. Bruce Swedien did all the classic stuff like Turn Back the Anders Time by the late Tyrone Davis, Barbara Atkins, Love Makes a Woman. Brother, when you hear these music, you're gonna just And Oh Girl, Have You Seen Her by the Shy Lights. All these were engineered by Bruce Swedien and his audio technicians before, and that was about approximately, you could say about some of the stuff he did was about 15 years or more before he arrived at Off the Wall and Thriller and so on.
Okay. So ultimately, it's like the frameworks of these is absolutely ridiculous. Basically, the youths have kind of created some rough diamonds. Some rough diamonds came through in the 60s and the 50s, and then literally were solid blocks delivering, diamonds, delivering masterpieces right into the 80s and into the early 90s. You're saying, and this is what this ground work kind of created. And to be honest, sometimes I would class myself as almost like a hip hop generation in terms of when the music we're seeing. We cannot, without these guys. We always think that Puff Daddy was the one who came up with his mentality. But when you look at America, and they're always the producer always seems to have a studio that he's working from. He always seems to have a professional area to do his craft with. Their blueprints to build their own studios was because the guys before them, the Motowns, the VJ records, the chess records that we talked about, Memphis, we talk about, Muscle Shoal, all these guys needed a studio to have their unique sound, to deliver their sound, to deliver their purpose, to build their art 24/7. It wasn't about going into a studio and then doing something and going back home. They knew they had to build their own studio. So hence why you find the likes of the Timberlands and all these guys, yes, they'll go in studio, do sessions, but a lot of times they have a pro studio work that they're working from at all times because the fundamentals there. How often do you see that in the UK, guys?
Well, you got Metro in Hackney. Yeah, you've got several of these rather remarkable studios, and don't forget that a lot of the studios that was rather interesting, and some of them have closed down now in the UK, due to rental cost and property and just the way it is.
But if you dig down, Kevin, if you can dig down, if you dig down as well, when you look at the problem with maybe some of the black-owned studio spaces as well, it's because we never had the financial follow-through and the financial knowledge and the financial opportunities to do what we do. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. That's right. That's right. We haven't maximized our talent because we haven't got our guys. Or they're only just starting now becoming actors in Star Wars because we're not producing stuff at that level. So I'm based in the studio here, guys, just for your knowledge, called Grosvenor Road Studios. I'm in the offices there. This is not actual studio area, but the studio area in the main area, in the 60s and 70s, I believe, I don't know if it's the 60s or the 70s, they produced the theme tune for Thunderbirds. Now, when you have opportunities like that, you make money Great making hits, but Kevin, you make money. If you're the space that makes the hit for Rocky, that's cycle. That's right. Cycle, bro.
Yeah, that's right. And don't forget as well that the same studio building that you're in did the Stingray soundtracks.
Stingray, Stingray, Stingray.
You know, the thing about it is that I think, which is considering that you're in an historical building that is black owned.
Yeah.
We don't have. This is another.
Oh, so we're opening. Sorry, guys, we're opening up there. We're opening wound. We can dig out this wound, man.
Because when you talk about soul music, especially with Chicago, you're talking about an entertainment center that became the platform and the platform for the Soul Train syndicate TV that started in Chicago and then eventually went to West Coast. So you're talking about music entrepreneurs and executives and songwriters and so on who started their craft. As a matter of fact, think about it. Quincy Jones' first million seller of his career that he produced was recorded in Chicago for Leslie Gore. It's My Party and so on. These are Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones did about 3 or 4 million selling singles for the late Leslie Gore. Leslie Gore.
Wow.
And that was during the 60s. That's the first time Quincy Jones was able to become a producer and he was a recording executive, right? Before he went to West Coast and did Ironside, The Pawn, the so forth, and the list goes on. So he started. I remember at the time, Mercury was one of the big independent labels in Chicago, which had Jerry Butler, just another significant one, who had his own. Who created a publishing workshop that developed guys who became impacting in the Natalie Cole's career. Because all of Natalie Cole's this is why the city. I'm just giving you a whet in your appetite. The city was regarded as one of the best communities to be for Black creative entrepreneurs.
Wow!
From New York to Los Angeles, it was a city to be, because remember, out of the city. I'm just giving an introduction. Out of the city, you had the Black-owned VJ Records, which eventually had a contract with the Beatles. Whoa!
Pause it, guys. VJ Records had Black-owned, had the first US label deal with the Beatles.
Yes, it had. It was because
that shows how ghetto Beatles.
Capital didn't see the Beatles as being sort of viable in most respects. So they just sent them over to VJ, and then Mr. Postman and all that stuff became monster hits for the Beatles.
Hold on. So you're telling me Beatles was signed by a Black-owned label first?
Yes, it was signed by a Black-owned label for the US market. One of the independent labels that signed the Beatles stuff to the US market. Remember, of course, they started out in the UK with Capitol EMI, right? So, but when they were going to go international, they were signed because a lot of the majors, such as Cameo Parkway in Philadelphia and so on, didn't think that the Beatles would be a viable force. They said, no, they'll be come and they'll be gone by tomorrow, not realizing what's going to happen, that is going to explode and change the whole dynamics. The only labels that were in the end was to survive the Beatles invasion at that level was Motown, but that's another story. That's another story.
That is
They were the only label really, one of the only American labels to actually compete toe to toe with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles' Invasion.
So here's a question. Yeah, there's a notable arranger called Johnny Pate. Are we going to go into him?
Oh yes, we will. He's Johnny Pate.
I'm just throwing out a name, guys. I don't know nothing about Johnny Pate, but so I'm ready because I heard this guy Johnny Pate now. He's it's interesting. He's a bass player like myself. He's a jazz bassist, yeah. But this guy gets involved in terms of arranging, and different things. He's worked with the likes of obviously Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions. I'm looking on here. There's he seems like he's worked with a number of the guys, and he released on his 80th birthday tribute album. I'm saying, okay, so and he's been sampled by a few guys like Jay-Z and so on. So so this guy's kind of like, okay, but interesting to find out about this guy. He was yeah, man, he's been doing stuff since the 50s, from the mid 50s, and
yes. Yes, that's right, because we will be talking about him.
Cool.
Okay, as I said earlier on in the broadcast when we started, Johnny Payton.
Yeah. Pate. Johnny Pate,
rather. Johnny Pate. Johnny Pate, who was instrumental to the sound that the Impressions created because at the time you have Curtis Mayfield, who wrote the song, produce it, and not all the time produce it, because Johnny Pate would be the one who is actually doing that, because of course he was knowledgeable and trained in classical and jazz, so okay, let me explain this to you. Very important that everybody needs to understand it about Chicago. Many of the musicians that operated from the Chess record, from VJ record, from Brunswick, from Curtom and so on, they were musically trained musicians from the jazz and classic community. When you talk about Maurice Jennings, one of the legendary Chicago drummers that worked with everybody that come to Chicago, from gospel, he did drumming for the late Jesse Dixon on his second Word album. We get started, we can look into the albums that came out to Chicago, the gospel albums. There was something else.
Yeah. Because the staple singers did some stuff.
We got to understand that let us not forget that the first time people really heard the staple singers is on Cloudy Day, which came out of VJ Records.
That's it, VJ. Yeah, let me look. And the VJ seems to be top of that. And then they've been so that People Get Ready.
Yes.
People Get Ready when. Who did that track again? Staples? Is that Staples singers?
No, the
Who's
People
that?
Get Ready was done by the Impressions, brother.
Impressions?
With the lead vocals. Lead vocals by Curtis Mayfield.
That's it. Because everybody sings that is it a gospel song?
Well, this is quite interesting.
Because we sing it like it's a gospel song. Yeah.
Let us get this very plain. We're going to go into Curtis Mayfield much more deeper, because the fact that myself and my colleague Bill have agreed that Curtis Mayfield was the creative pillar of Chicago soul. And the reason for that, and of course Carl Thomas is another one, the music entrepreneur part of it. Because Curtis Mayfield wrote and produced a prolific amount of music from the 60s, right? He was responsible for a lot of he was almost, how would I put it? Almost 70% of the music that came out of Chicago, the hits, Curtis Mayfield had something involved in it during the 60s. Or probably, yes.
Crazy.
Okay. At one point, this is to show you how serious Curtis is. Major Lance, that was contracted to OK Record. OK Record was a black specialist label that was a division of Columbia, right? Which was operated and run by Carl Davis at the time.
Yeah.
With OK Record, Curtis managed to actually wrote some of the best-selling singles and records by Major Lance, right?
Okay.
And Monkey Time and so forth. Matter of fact, they said that he generated X amount of million copies and business gross earning for OK. Actually, he started to create the groundswell of what you call the soul sound. Because VJ Records, at one point, you need to understand, although it was a black-owned label, and right, and it did a lot of jazz and gospel and so forth, its output were very much more poppy orientated. You know, when you look at Duke of Earl and so forth and so on, right? And the things that
very commercial, very popular.
Yeah, VJ Record was instrumental in introducing people to Four Seasons, Cherry, Big Girls Don't Cry. All these. Matter of fact, there was about 4 million sellers that was distributed by VJ Records by this white recording act, I think from New York originally. Yeah. And let's not forget it. 3 of those singles, three out of the 4 of the singles went pop number 1 in the Hot 100, and it was distributed by VJ Records. And like VJ Records had number 1s for the Beatles, the Four Seasons, these white groups, as well as black groups as well.
Okay, so and it's black owned. It was one of the labels. It's the only label. Motown didn't have that experience where they had several number 1 hits with a white act. VJ did that. Okay,
VJ is the first label. I mean, the Face Records, which was based in New York, based in Atlanta, did that with Pink and so forth, right? But VJ is the only white label till now that I know of as a black-owned label to have several number 1 hits between 2 major acts.
And that financing, bro, comes in and it helps them to invest into the next generation. And this is the problem now, guys, where we have two. Anyway, open up the door. But just to reiterate what Kevin's saying now, So Curtis Mayfield is writing for loads of people, as Kevin says. Let's have a look at the evidence, So I just made 2 clicks because obviously I naturally click Staple Singers. So I made a little click into Staple Singers, and I said this track that I'm trying to think in my head, how does it sound? Let's Do It Again by Staple Singers. Let
me get this plain. And Let's Do It Again is definitely not Chicago because it's a muscle show. So you have to keep it separately.
But we keep it separately. It's muscle show, but it's written by Curtis Mayfield. That's quite interesting. So, and it was part of the.
Are you saying Let's Do It Again? Part of one of the writing credits belongs to Curtis Mayfield.
It says here it's a song. It is a song by Staple Singers, written by Curtis Mayfield, and it was part of the soundtrack for Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier's film Let's Do It Again.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes,
I'm
fast track. I need to fast track because when they stop. Okay, this stuff. This is. Oh dear, we're gonna get. Okay. Let's put it this way. The Warner Brothers contracted Curtis Mayfield to record the album.
Okay.
And then out of the album, Let's Do It Again. The album went number 1 on the R&B charts, and Let's Do It Again, the single, went number 1 on the pop charts and the R&B charts. So it's a total crossover. Jeez. Add Curtis Mayfield. Look, brother, let me tell you something. When we go behind the scene dealing with what this is going to make this story interesting.
Go on.
Is the musicians behind the sounds who worked for Curtis. Because Curtis, as good as he is as a producer and a lyricist, is the musicians. He had some serious black brothers working with him and whites too. I mean, the engineer. This is gonna even really move you as well. The engineer that worked on all these Curtis Mayfield tracks, like Superfly and Claudine soundtracks, and the soundtrack called Sparkle by Aretha Franklin. The engineer behind it is a white brother.
Wow. And this is these guys, this is crazy, guys, because you've got, now we've just traced up, this is the effect of Chicago, a church in Chicago had a group of brothers or cousins singing together, which had Curtis Mayfield being part of. Then Curtis made it to the church, produced this absolute G. He does a few things with a group called The Impressions. He keeps on going Impressions and goes kind of solo. And then he becomes part of his crazy project called Superfly. Superfly then comes up and blows up. And then all of a sudden, because they realize that black people can do instrumentals and be part of movie soundtracks, then there's subcontract Curtis Mayfield, who then goes back into church and picks up a group called Staple Singers and says, you come over here and do this song. And this is why we need to not forget where we come from. This is why we fell in the UK, because we forget where we come from and we pretend that we don't need to invest back in. So I'm not saying that's his full motive, but he knows where the talent comes from. And the Staple Singers, if you listen to their early music, these guys are hardcore gospel.
They're hard. But you see, this is what interesting about Curtis Mayfield and the Staples. They actually recorded a lot of social commentary tracks. Yeah.
You can relate to this very day. But did you say people get ready? Yo.
These tracks.
I get with it. Yeah, cool.
These tracks, you drop them in today's society, and it still has the
relevant. 100%.
Same proven impact. It still has the same impact, bro.
And this is what frustrates me, Kevin. Like, look at Sounds of Blackness and Optimistic. Yeah, you can drop that tune right now and everywhere. Mary Shackles. Bro, these shows that as gospel artists we can cross over, retaining our values. And this is real powerful stuff, guys. But we have to remember, when we go into the world, when we go into this music world, this music business, understand that you have a part. Just remember where you come from. The UK gospel industry and the churches are suffering because there's a divide in this creativity thing. And Curtis Mayfield, I'm not saying he hasn't got church hurt. What I'm saying, it's amazing how we're talking about Chicago, and the Chicago then links with Muscle Show. The US is not the UK where each city is an hour drive. Now, Kevin has lived in America. It's not about hour drives. It's about plane drives. It's about moving around.
Brother, if I had to get into Chicago and not stress myself driving, it's better to fly there.
Yeah, 100%.
Same thing with Detroit, because some of these cities, it's like the distance between going from Stansted Airport to Istanbul, 3-4 hours.
Oh yeah, 100%. More than that, bro. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to Seattle for that conference in October. I was telling them, lot.
Yeah.
It's a 10+ hours flight. That means I'm flying the whole of the continental United States.
Yeah, man.
To get to the other side, West Coast. That means I'm flying over New York. I'm flying over Chicago. And all those places to get to to Seattle, which is West Coast. This is the first time I'm going West Coast, and I've lived in the States for X amount of years.
Yeah, man.
And I couldn't fly to West Coast because I couldn't afford it at the time because I'm raising children. We just couldn't, you know?
Yeah.
But brother, that is in the same country.
That's how big the country is, bro. That's how,
The country is so big that sometimes the major labels have regional president directors to deal with some of the territories.
Yeah.
As they mentor artists and develop. The
Man.
place is big. Artists can be regionally big and moving X amount of units and living comfortably and not really crossover big.
Yeah.
It's that crazy. An artist who is not well known but not well known, can do 250,000 copy streaming and so forth and doing well. Yeah.
Come on now. Come on.
And that people like Dottie people, you know.
Yeah.
All them period of gospel, she was doing between 100 to 200,000 copies per album, and she was cool. That is a lot of money. I mean, bruv.
This is what I'm saying, bro. And people don't know the bigness. And this is what I'm saying to you guys here. The impact. And this is why I get excited, because as soon as we've always done Curtis Mayfield, but the effects that Curtis Mayfield did for Black Panther today, that they give us, that they know that we can do our own thing. And you can go back into my period, like Boomerang. If it wasn't for the likes of Curtis Mayfield going yes to some crazy entrepreneurial independent black directors, and if he didn't bring that wow and that funk to this, they wouldn't even think that black music had a part to play in movies.
Look, bruv. Look. When you look at especially if we revisit back Shaft, I mean,
Bro.
Well, look.
Oh, for goodness sake, the Shaft, like look at this, man. If I forget Shaft, you got Shaft, and you've got Superfly, guys. Like we've done 2 episodes in this, and this is what I'm saying, guys. We have to realize that the synergy of film and music, and I'm learning that as I get older, and the reason why we're blatantly putting out there, so myself and Kevin, because you're not going to come and ask us the question. No one now want to listen to us, and sometimes the industry does not want us to say this, because I always say to the youths, Kevin, yeah, I says, when I see these young producers that making good beats, I says, that's great, mate. But are you going to spend the rest of your life making £50 beats for your local rapper? Or are you going to look to now start scoring for musicals? Look at Star Wars, look at Rocky, watch these films and look how music plays a part, and see if you can score that out. See if you can take us on a journey on a musical piece. Let's start using your skills, widen your horizons. Because doing £50 beats, you only can do for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Expand your mind, because the work on them productions is a different level of income. And remember where you come from. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. When we look at black,
you get emotional on this, you know.
my white friend said to me, my editor, Bill Spicer, said to me, there's 2 things that black people dominate and still do, is black and sports. He said not to say that black people don't dominate in that.
Yeah, music and sports. Yeah.
But him said sports and music.
We kings.
Areas, them 2 areas. He said that when we talk about the major gross earnings.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Let's just look at gospel for a minute. Marvin Snacks. I didn't think I would make it. The track there, yeah.
Never would have made it.
Never would have made it. The track has gone, according to the platform that Apple use. I think it's Pandora. I'm not sure what it's called. But on that platform, that particular track has done 1 billion streams. Now, bruv, think about this now. That track has crossover and impact people from the white community, from the Latin community, because it's a universal track that anybody can comprehend. It's a gospel track, but it has a power. I mean, it now has gone over platinum that means it sold over 1 million copies. It could end up by the end of the decade selling about cannot die. It's just going on.
Sorry, Kevin. Yeah, sorry. I just lost it for 2 seconds there, brother. Sorry, guys, that's still,
Yeah, something happens.
Yeah, cool.
Problem.
Yeah, cool.
It was unstable for a minute.
No, that's cool. We got you there still, yeah. But no.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. No, 100%, bro. And this is where we need to try and get back into Chicago now. So we had to show you guys where we go back into Chicago, and this is why we're passionate about this. We just opening up doors and just bouncing off. This is a live study, guys. Don't get it twisted. This is a live study, and this is where we learn from each other. You know what I'm saying? I just see myself as a mentee. You got the historian there, and we bounce off each other. Me bumping into the staple singers, looking at that track there, triggers off, you know what I mean, a continual conveyor belt, which we've touched on a few episodes ago. We touched about Muscle Show, where Staple Singers has made massive hits from, but the reality show is they worked with a Chicago great up in Chicago called Curtis Mayfield. He called him into the project, and he called him in, and and let's do this and make the best. He called the best, the most appropriate people for the task. UK, listen to me correctly. Let's stop being so much nepotism, especially in the UK gospel, and get the appropriate. We too often we get the carpenters to do brain surgery and get the brain surgeons to do carpentry, and that's why we have the wrong people in the wrong places. Not bad people in the wrong places, not good people in the wrong places. The wrong people in the wrong places, and the right. You know what I'm saying? We need to get the right people, the right tools to fit the part. Now, I might get shut down for that, Kevin. Yo, no one ain't got no gun to shoot me off here. They don't even know where Birmingham is, so I don't care.
Yeah. But let me put it this way. I'm going to make sure that as we talk about the Chicago sound, I'm going to make sure I get such ladies as Charming Elliott on the program, because she understands production and lyrics and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, man.
Knows where I'm going, because I'm planning to do some serious stuff with her.
Okay, no, 100%. And listen, guys, Kevin's gonna do some link ups, and that's Kevin. You started up there, right there. If we can get link ups with the contacts, people you're talking to, even stateside and the UK side, let's get them into this conversation and
get them into this conversation
and to expand on this conversation, because guys, this journey of celebrating black music is something that inspires me to be greater, inspires me that I cannot walk away from where we're at, because I know what we can achieve. So when I get up in the morning, knowing what these guys have done, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's taken them 20 years to get there, guys. Sometimes you see some big man get there because they've got to get some bass into the voice for the youngest to get through. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So the man with bass in his voice comes into the room and goes, I will do with that, son. You stay back there, make the beats, work on that Quincy. Well, I'll take care of business. Yeah, no one knows about the uncles that had to open the doors. Yeah, everybody looks at the Quincy Joneses. Yeah, nobody realized that when they had to open up the studio, and they had to buy the actual first building, they needed uncle to go down there and say, Uncle, I need to talk to this guy, man. You know what I mean? We need to put. Sometimes it's their parents. You talked about Motown, bro. You talked about the dad having a little successful business, having to put the money down. We talk about Superfly going to a white businessman to put some money on top, but he had black entrepreneurs investing into it. We need to understand what makes businesses successful. There's investment from all sorts of ways. It's not just about sitting around and making money off your first job. It's getting the investment and being mentored by business people to make this thing successful.
Serious people. Okay, this is when we take a look at Chicago as well. There was a lot of white brothers behind the scene that worked with the Curtis Mayfields and so on. Because remember, you had the symphony orchestra. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra was made up of Jewish ladies and men. That many of them they had Eastern European names.
Yeah, man. The Polish lot, man. The Polish lot.
Pronounce of it, but they were so passionate about doing music well that when when South Bravo brought them in. South Bravo is a Jewish string contractor. He's another one. But you talk about who actually chose how many. When Curtis Mayfield now I'm going to show you how this happens in Chicago. When Curtis Mayfield or Carl Smith need X amount of string musicians to do something, he will say, how much do you need? And he would go and pick the best ones to actually underwrite the strings on that track.
This is what I'm saying.
So it was a community
thing, and the thing is, something that we're saying here, guys. We focus on black people. But we're not saying about black isolation. Two separate things. Two different.
No.
We're not saying this.
Please.
People are talking about black superiority. We're talking about
please
inspiring black people to do greater, but at the same time, use the appropriate tools. I don't business. You know what I mean? This is not about picking black only bands, yeah?
No.
This is not bit mixers. We pick the appropriate people to deliver the best job. Just know who you are and appreciate your people and start running away from yourself in the mirror. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And once we're comfortable in our skin and know that I can be the arranger and have a full-on white orchestra, but I'm making the arrangements and walking there that you can arrange it. Yeah? Then that's what we want to inspire. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? Not, get rid of them all and just come in there and just totally mess things up. We want to do a lot. We want to encourage you to be, feel no way about being the leader of these situations, be arrangers and working with these guys, because these guys, I talked about Johnny Pate. Johnny Pate is seen as a guy who largely worked with horns, but he's a jazz bassist. Tell me, bass players, how many of you are actually looking into horn arrangement?
Well, okay, this is the thing that we need to understand. Most of the arrangers, so I discover, most of the arrangers in Chicago, they end up being multi-instrumentalists because they were so good. They actually dabble in different instruments to get full orchestral understanding about instruments work. Brother, when we go and deal with Charles Stepney, that is another from Chicago. That's another dimension altogether, because according to Bill, and I tend to agree with him, that Charles Stepney is the most sophisticated one out of all the classically trained musicians. I mean, he's so sophisticated that Charles Stepney, if you listen to Secret Garden and so on, Yeah. Garden and so on, what he did. These tracks, these albums weren't instantly big sellers, but no, they're collector's item, and they're albums that people who are serious musicians look up to get ideas.
Crazy.
He was at that level with Rotary Connection. The brother, he was so impacting that the Pink Floyds and so on get their impact and knowledge from him. He was a genius with fusion.
And this is what I'm saying, guys. This is what I'm saying, man. Come on, guys, man. Let's step up the game, man. And this is inspirational, guys. I'm just inspired today by Chicago. So what we're gonna be doing, guys, in the future. I just mentioned a couple of names, and we spent about 5 minutes having an exploration about them still. Anyway, still, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You just touch into things of you mentioned there. Guys, start looking into Curtom. Which is basically Curtis Mayfield's label. And when we dig about Curtis' label, we touched base about, Kevin talked about Curtis Mayfield, but we can now look at the damage that caused in a good way in terms of funk and disco recordings. You've got Constellation Records, Ewart Ebener, Bill Shepard.
Ebener was one of the first. Was basically one of the first black recording executives, one of the most successful black recording executives that came out of the inner city. And he's another one. He's another one.
And he's got him working along with Bill Shepard, as he said. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Bill Shepard, Bill Shepard, or they call him Bunky. Bunky.
Yeah, Bunky, that's correct. Yeah.
Bunky was responsible for a lot of hits that came out of Chicago. He was at one time he was the vice president for the black division of 21st Century Records, where Barry White was on, Stepney Mills, and so on.
And because you got the orchestral strength of the likes of the Barry White, it's very orchestral if you listen to some of the elements of Barry White. And you got another label called One Therefore. So I'm just hinting to it. And One Therefore, it says here, it was a very gospelly styled soul music Chicago sound, which had the likes of artists like Otis Clay. You know what I'm saying? You know, Five Duotones. You get Alvin Cash. You know what I'm saying? You know, different things like that. So you got One Therefore, which I believe that Kevin will bump into these guys. Obviously, we mentioned about the size of Mercury Records. Now, I remember Mercury Records because I was talking about Mercury Records strongly going into the R&B era. So I remember you got ABS Paramount, which obviously had to see the success in Chicago, and they've had, you know what I mean, and jump over there and worked with a lot of stuff with the local guys like Curtis Mayfield in there. And this is what I'm saying, these major labels will jump in, but you got to retain your thing. So Curtin is Curtis Mayfield, but he keeps that, but at the same time he works for ABC Paramount and looks at things like Gypsy Woman, People Get Ready, and does hits through them through the impressions. And Brunswick, another New York based. This is what I'm saying. People in Birmingham, people in Manchester, people in Sheffield. If we step up and do our thing in excellence, the big city, London, will come in and invest in our cities, invest in our gospel scenes, and you know what I mean, in our black music scenes. If we step up and do our thing, you got Brunswick, another New York base. You got OK Records, which is a subsidiary of
OK Records that we will talk about. Is based in New York originally, but end up creating a subsidiary in Chicago because of the budding talent that was coming out of it.
Yeah, and
budding talent, and also it was a race label technically, but it take up the notch when it started to have hits with Major Lance. I mean, at one point for 2 years, Major Lance was the biggest selling black actor, one of the biggest selling in the country.
Monkey Time. Yeah.
It's a monster hit. It went through the roof, brother.
And the thing is, again, these guys have been inspired by Curtis Mayfield. So Kevin's statement saying that Curtis Mayfield might be the most single-handedly is you said it, Kevin. Looking and studying, you see the thumbprint. Now, when you look in Spotify, you see Curtis Mayfield, you're thinking, what's he done? There's a couple of hits in the 70s. But when you look at it, his thumbprint is on one of the most successful black arenas of birthplaces of music, and he's there. And you know where it comes from? The church. Yep,
church.
Yeah, it was a church, man. VJ Records, obviously. They're the ones the only label that saw the power of the Beatles and saw that they're going to be successful. And maybe without VJ Records, they would have never been successful in America. So the reality show is, and it's black owned.
The thing about it, when they produced those hits, Capitol Record realized who they have in their hands, and they pulled them away from VJ. Financial problem, and they collapsed. But the thing about it, VJ was the you could say was the template for the Motown records of the world, because they created that entrepreneurship, because Chicago is there, Detroit is over there.
Yes,
and the groundswell and impact. And the interesting thing about Chicago, there was many occasions where the Funk Brothers, that the Motown studio band, would come over to Chicago to help to create hits.
Yeah, man. No, 100%. No. I'm looking here, guys, and it's saying here, you know, that basically soul music, the heart spaces for that was Chicago, which we're going to go into, alongside Detroit, which is the natural Motown area. And it also, we've already dealt with this, guys, and that's his Memphis, you know what I'm saying? As being, and now Memphis, Tennessee, and you know, we look into these areas, and they're powerful areas, guys. And then you look at now, you talk about Chicago was the place, a certain entrepreneurial place, but then look at it now, it's Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? You know, where a lot of black entrepreneurs are going there, being successful in that city and whatsoever, you know. And so the things evolve and things change, but we've got to look at where these successes were. Sometimes we do focus on, you know, the sad stories of, you know, when people talk about they call it the oh, you know that place where they bombed after World War One, where you had that successful financial quarter in I can't remember. It used to call it the black stock market, the black okay, I can't believe I forgot it, man.
Are you talking about the US?
In the US, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about I know you're talking about they call it
the
Harlem, so on, where they had the Harlem Renaissance. No.
It's not in New York. It's in they used to call it the Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street. Yes.
And then they bombed it because of the success and the sort of financial success of black people. Now we can focus on that and look at what the KKK and different people did in that area and killed off a load of people. But if we had to show is that a couple of decades later they became successful financial hubs of success and success stories financially, business wise for black people. So I will bring up history atrocities and what's happened there. But you see, out of that and the entrepreneurship, we kept on coming again, and we bashed through the barriers and created multi-million pound businesses, and we made a multi-million pound businesses for people of all colors as well. You know what I mean? And success in the smiles. But
it's well, just before we go, well-created and dynamic music creates new enterprise, because you create more songwriters and the publishing houses, and it's all a spin-off. And that's what Chicago was. Chicago created a lot of spin-off, and then these people migrate to different cities and so on with their skills.
Mm-hmm. Simple.
Give you one more person that was phenomenal in Chicago. Is Benjamin Wright Jr. who developed
he's Chicago, isn't he? Yeah. We touched him. Yeah.
He's not originally from Chicago, but
his body of work. Yeah.
His body of work. He learned his craft by watching Charles Stepney and Evans. And he did what you called he was the copyist for their string arrangements and so on. So he developed knowledge, and he was in-demand studio musicians with Pate group.
No, absolutely fantastic.
After he left Chicago, I mean, Jerry Butler was telling him not to go to West Coast, but because they were both friends, but he said, no, I have to change. When he hit Chicago, and some of the key brothers from the West Coast knew that he was there, like Nicky Stevens, who was the former A&R director for Motown, because they know the depth of his skills. When Quincy Jones discovered he was there, Quincy Jones called him in to do Off the Wall. And then when this is to show you, Bruce Swedin, who is originally from Chicago, and know how Benjamin worked. When Benjamin came into the studio, this is what he said to Quincy Jones. This is going to be a piece of cake. This is going to be a piece of cake, bro. If you have Benjamin doing the strings, it's a piece of cake. And Quincy didn't know. Quincy knew something, but when the brother did Off the Wall, Quincy Jones was rolling on the ground and saying, "What the impact."
Yeah.
And the rest is history. Because if you listen to the Off the Wall is experience and what the skills that Benjamin Wright learned in Chicago. All right, I have nothing more to say.
All right then, guys. Listen, guys, this is here myself, Kevin Tomlin, going in on the history of black music and having fun going through this explanation. These things, and these are part of my mentoring sessions out there still, learning about history, how to dissect history, how to look into history, and to expand in front of the public, in front of you all, and how I'm learning about, gospel, not gospel music, black origin, but the history of black music, and the impact it's made in this world, and why we are number one, not number two, not number three, not number four, not number five, not number six. We are number one in the world when it comes to music. Try test me, guys, because don't say King Elvis around me. terminally great. Just call him Cuckoo Bird, yeah? But listen, guys, yeah? Well, this is Roger here. Kevin, thanks again for your time. We'll be back again, and we'll be back again with Chicago. Guys, forgive me if we teased you for Motown and we're going away from Motown, but we're not too far off. We just got here. We'll come back. We're just across the lake dealing with some business over lake and just dealing with Chicago first. We have to
start out this thing. Just to remind them that the book on Chicago is coming out, so we have to tease and remind you the intents of it. Just like
hint, guys. Kevin's got a few books out there. Just put Kevin Tomlin into Amazon, guys. Just put Kevin Tomlin. That's KEVIN space Tomlin. That's actually Tom TOMLIN. Put that into Amazon and invest, guys, because there's some great information out there still for you out there. So yeah, Kevin, nothing but love, my bro. Well, bro, before the end of September, before you head out to Seattle, we're gonna have you up in here. I'm gonna tell you, hopefully the weekend, the 16th of September, round about that period, 16th of September, I'm doing a big event, so I'm gonna get you to come up, brother. Yeah. All right then, brother. Listen, guys, nothing but love. This is Roger, over and out.
Hey, this is your Bishop from Rock Solid. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for clicking and subscribing and also sending these videos to other people as well. We are so hungry to get your support. So remember, check us out on our website, and also check us out on Insta and wherever you want to find us. On Spotify, you can play us all day as well. And just make sure that you are supporting this channel, that we are developing our agenda towards music of black origin, and that is gospel music with a message. So please walk with us on this journey. Bye now.